Hey, John Harris here with the Rock Metal Podcast. Join me as we get to go behind the scenes into what goes into producing records and making music as we interview some of our favorite and soon-to-be favorite bands. Today we're chatting with Justin Brett and Simon Gardner of Found Missing. For fans of everything from LinkinPark to Incubus to Foo Fighters, we'll be chatting about Found Missing's new album, Blind Leading the Blind, produced, mixed, and mastered by Tom Donovan. We'll get to hear the story about how all of that came to be, great tips such as, well, why it's so important to have a radio edit of your key songs, and so much more. So please stay tuned to the very end. But first, let's check in with our beautiful sponsors. Asher Media Relations, doing public relations for everything loud. For your band needs to be seen and heard in print, online, and radio, head over to AsherMediaRelations.com. That's AsherMediaRelations.com. Mention the Rock Metal Podcast and get your band noticed. Syndicol Music is a full-service agency for musicians offering record label services, marketing, branding, production, and management. Head over to syndicolmusic.com. That's syndicolmusic.com. SYNDICOL music.com. Mention the Rock Metal Podcast and take your music career to the next level. All right, Justin, Gid, thank you so much for coming on to the Rock Metal Podcast today. Go ahead and say hi to all of our beautiful listeners.
Hi, everybody. Hi, everyone.
All right. We've got a new record coming out here soon, Blind Leading the Blind via Wormhole Death Records. What was the greatest moment for you guys producing this record?
Oh, I think what we come out with in the end, it took us a long while to do that album. We've done a pre-production and everything, and then just tried loads of new ideas when it comes to the album. And we were pleased with what we come out with in the end. So done well, I think.
Yeah, I think some of the defining moment was probably doing. I mean, we released it as a first single, which is currently out now. Nobody. But I think the production we did on that and the ideas we got from our producer and the guy that recorded us, Tom Donovan, into that music was a little bit very, very different from what we're normally used to, because we were predominantly quite a live band. So to be able to use lots of different things and ideas and as a producer, giving us ideas to do things was really nice, and was very happy with that sort of finished product, because it was a very polished kind of compared to some of the others as a piece of music. With the production on it, it was different for us, and really enjoyed the process of doing that.
Yeah, predominantly a live band, but Tom, the producer, giving you ideas to do things in a more polished way. Pleased with how it came out, but very different from what you used to do in the studio, or what you normally do in the studio. So take us through that. What does that mean? Unpackage that statement for us. What does that mean to be predominantly a live band? You've been given some new ideas. It's different than what you're used to. Take us through that.
I think a lot of the changes were, I think we were pushed a lot to try and do more vocal parts, whereas I think when we was live, sometimes we'd have like little bits and pieces, and as we progressed on and started to write an album, we started to think more about vocal parts and being able to replicate them live as well. So we're starting to put more and more into like a recorded track, and
something really pushes me, as a vocalist,
and started to think about how we can like incorporate. I mean, I think we even got, we've got me singing on some and G singing on some. And I think we even coaxed Dean into doing a couple of parts as well, and we're going to try and coax him to do them live as well, which he's not so happy about. But I think we'll get there, because I think it sounds, if you can replicate as much live possibly that you record, it sounds so much better and so much more professional, and gives the whole feel of what you've captured.
Okay, perfect. So we're being pushed to do more vocal parts, which then sounds more professional, which is totally true, and incorporating backing vocals, but then also as well, so it sounds not like just one person being a one-man choir. You know, it's getting the rest of the band to participate in the backing vocals, which now starts to sound like a band. Now, because you mentioned getting the rest of the band to start doing backing vocal parts live, did working this way in the studio start to change how you were playing live shows and how you were gigging?
Well, we were gigging, and then when it comes to recording the album, we sort of just stopped everything and just concentrated on the album. And to be honest, we haven't gigged for a while yet. We've been just, after the album, we decided to rehearse again and get everything sounding exactly as it should sound on the album. Now we sort of changed it in the studio,
or as close to that.
Yeah. And now we're going to start back on the road again real soon. Mm-hmm. But we haven't done anything for a while, to be honest with you, live-wise. And obviously COVID and that, when that come in, that knocked everything. for everyone for a while.
Okay. All right. Haven't gigged in a while, but definitely looking into recreating and revitalizing that live performance with those backing vocals. Now, speaking of those vocals, you got to be singing something. Take us through the themes on this record.
Well, I write all the lyrics, and to be honest with you, all of them, the songs is basically like a snapshot of what I'm going through at the time of my life, really. Most of them are about relationships or something like that, things going wrong, to be honest, which is, so it's usually about what's going on to me at the time.
Oh, man. So many failed relationships, apparently,
exactly,
eh?
Yeah.
I suppose but I think a lot of singers or lyricists take a lot from like personal experience. I think they put the artistic comes from that anger or that grief or that angst goes into it. If we make quite a rocky song, maybe there's a bit of anger going into it. Make a bit of the softer song, there's a bit more feeling going into it.
Basically, I should have been a drummer.
Yeah,
so I didn't have all this pain.
That's right. That's right. Is that something that maybe bonds the band a bit more with camaraderie because people are able to look at your lyrics in the band and say, "Whoa, dude, you went through that"?
Yeah, I think we're with the band as a band, we're really close.
Yeah.
Like, we're real like a family, really. We're like brothers, so we all go through stuff together, and everyone's there for each other. So all the band know when there's something happening to me, there's going to be a song written about it. So they're just waiting for it. So yeah.
You're going to be the next Taylor Swift. People are going to see you on a date with a girl and they're like, he's writing the next song.
Exactly.
Okay. So the lead single, Nobody.
Yeah.
Take us through that. What is that about? Who is Nobody?
It's about me feeling that there's no one there for me, sort of thing. That I'm sort of on my own in myself, not the band, like that's what it's about, really. Just sort of like I'm a nobody, or so they think. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But with most of my lyrics, I mean, I write them, they are about something specific to me, but I always try and write them so that anyone can interpret it as they want to interpret it, which is really what I think a good song should be, Because if you're going through something in your life and you listen to it, that might relate to you perfectly, but, that's how I like my songs to be sort of known.
Sometimes people take solace in that, make lyrics to something going on with themselves, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Writing lyrics in a way that anybody can identify with it. And then the track Nobody about feeling like a nobody. I mean, does that resonate with you listening in right now? I mean, raise your hand if that resonates with you, feeling like a nobody. Now let's move on to the next question, which is gear, which for a vocalist, sometimes it's not really that important. Maybe this question is more for Gid as far as bass is concerned. I mean, you guys mentioned doing some really unique and cool things with Tom, and we're going to chat with Tom more about production later on. But any cool gear did you guys end up using on the record?
Not overly. I mean, bass-wise, I was fairly natural, just a few minor effects, nothing too major. I think when it comes to Dean, the guitarist, Tom had all these impressive plugins and new suites and stuff to make his amps and things sound completely different. So we're not really recording what he normally plays through. He's going straight into the computer and then put through these programs. And I think it's impressed him so much that he's looking into getting those sort of setups to play through live, because I think the way the way everyone plays now, to go live, you don't have to carry all this equipment around anymore. You literally almost plug into a computer-based thing and it models all your amps and effects and everything for you. And it's just easier to set up, it's easier to adjust. So we sort of obviously we're a bit older, so we're used to the old.
But we still try and keep it a bit raw as well.
Yeah.
I think that's lacking when you see bands that have that sometimes.
But what I'm saying is, it's about the ease of being able to keep the setup as the continuity in the sound as much as possible now, because the technology is moving on to be able to deal with that. So you're not going to get the power outs or the effects pedals breaking down, because it's all set into one program. But I think, like Justin touched on there, we did play with a band that all their backing vocals were done through a backing track.
Mm-hmm.
So they're singing to a click and singing, and we're listening to them. It's like, but we could hear the singer singing, and he was flat compared to the backing track. The backing track's got about 6 layers of backing vocals on it, and while it sounded massive and great, I mean, they didn't even have a bass player. that's in the backing track as well. And I was thinking, like, yeah, you can do that, but we're not fans of that. We like to be able to, you know, want everyone to see us that we're all singing live, all singing the backing vocals live, and that's you know, the sound.
It seems to be a bit of a fading art. There are not that many people seem to do it now as much as they used to. You used to go and see a band live, like you just said, with Kiss. Iron Maiden are the same as well. As like Bruce Dickinson does all his own backing vocals on the studio, and then when you see him live, you'll have Steve Harris and stuff. You know, can I play with madness? And but they still do it live though, which is still, you know, which is what we try to do. But we don't sound. We do sound as close to the album as we think we sound. But
yeah, on YouTube there is a live video of you guys. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Yeah, we did. We didn't put that up.
Yeah, someone else did.
Let's see if I can find it again while I'm generating my next question here. But you're mentioning something that we're at a very unique point in time in music because, like you said, you can just show up with a laptop and there's your whole show from everything. You can control everything from the lights to the backing tracks to the effects to the plugins. You know, all from MIDI or whatever on your laptop, and it's super convenient. But at the same time, something that came to mind was, where's the wind from the band? Where's the wind coming from? The fact that the band is actually producing energy into the room, and is that missing? So, as a follow-up question, then, does that mean that your live performance will continue to evolve over time? And I guess, how do you see the perfect live setup for you?
I see it as a hybrid of both. I think you take the new technology and integrate it into, you know, a classic live show. I would, you know, I don't think I would ever play through MIDI. I can see the advantages of the guitarist for the effects, being able to use a mixture of that.
That's where we use things with guitarists and effects and stuff like that. But vocals and most of it, everything really, will be kept, you know, as it should be. Some live. We won't do things like that with backing vocals.
Otherwise, it's not really a live performance, is it?
No, and we want to be live, proper, you know.
All right, it's at the New Cross Inn. There's a YouTube channel called The Improvised Man and Friends, and they put up you guys live at New Cross Inn.
Yeah,
It seems like sound check, though.
Yeah, I think it was. That was a terrible night. That was. I remember that night, but we won't even talk about that.
Okay, there's no more talking about it.
Yeah.
I was gonna like, ooh, orange amps. That's fantastic. Very cool. Very cool. Okay. More to come, but let's go ahead and check in with our beautiful sponsors. Two Madsen is responsible for producing, mixing, and mastering some of the best metal for over the last 20 years. From Meshuggah to The Haunted to Poison Black, Kemper Profiler packs for guitar players, and Easy Drummer expansion packs for programming drums. Two Madsen can take your production to a level previously unheard. Head over to twomadsen.com. That's twomadsen.com. TUEMADSEN. Click contact. Fill out the info for your next project, and let Two know that the Rock Metal Podcast sent you. Wormhole Death is a modern record label, publishing, and film production company born in 2008. Getting signed to this label means global distribution, publishing, and marketing with Wormhole Death's roster of global partnerships. Head over to wormholedeath.com, that's wormholedeath.com, submit your band, and let them know the Rock Metal Podcast sent you. How would you define success at this stage of your career?
We'd like the singles to do as well as they can. Obviously, you can get the radio play and get playlists and stuff like that, and get as much notice as we can. And then when the album is out, which is in April, and then obviously we're hoping that we get good reviews. And we'd like it to get in the charts of some description or some sort of charts. Obviously, that would be where we'd like to be at, and then follow it up from there on, you know, live wise, and see what we can get on and stuff from there, really. But as we say, it seems to be starting all well. There's a lot of things happening, but it's still early days. It was only 3 weeks ago on Thursday that we released the first single, so still early days at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Still early on to tell, but definitely wanting that record to be enjoyed, get great reviews, and let the songs do the work that they should be doing based on how it is that you guys have done all of the work up to this point. Which takes me to the next logical question, which is Tom Donovan, the guy that produced the record, hip-hop artist on the charts. I know you guys had mentioned wanting to get onto the radio, onto those playlists, have, you know, that musical kind of success in the broader terms. Is that why you guys chose to work with Tom? Or maybe just take us through what you want to tell us about working with Mr. Donovan.
we've worked with Tom for a long time, for years really, and he's always brought in a different element because he always has. We'll record something, and then he'll have an idea of maybe a drops or gaps or something put under it which we've never thought of. And he originally was in metal bands when he was younger as well, so he understands our music as well. And then because we've always kept working with him, now we've become so easy with him that we sort of give him a bit of
free rein,
yeah. And then he'll start saying what he thinks is not all the time. I mean, it's not loads of things that he changes. Just every now and then he'll put a little idea in, and then that can completely transform what we've done and make it more interesting. And I think his ideas, it's been good to have him there, because we don't go in there. Some bands will go in and record and just think that they know best. They won't listen to anyone else. And, and we're not like that at all. We all went in there and listened to what he was saying. It's not everything he was saying, to be honest with you. Sometimes it was like, no. But most of the things he said was we agreed on what he was just the best thing for us, I think.
And he has experienced it because that band has had quite good success in this country, like in the charts and with Radio 1 here and stuff like that. So because they're in that genre that the UK likes at the moment, it's kind of like that grime sort of like hip hop sort of music thing. There's a lot of, with the youngsters,
and they're hip hop with a live band as well.
So he's got experience about what radios want, what people like.
Yeah,
and so he's tried to translate that into our music without changing it, just augmenting it to hopefully appeal to a wider variety of people.
Yeah, I mean, you've definitely said a lot of things about working with Tom, and one of the things you mentioned was, as a band, being open to collaborating with the producer, which is super important. I mean, why hire somebody if you're just going to shut them down and not listen to them? But you mentioned, getting on the charts, getting on the playlists, getting on the radio, and that Tom has that experience. His hip hop group is, in fact, charting in the UK. You mentioned that you've worked with him for quite some time, but I mean, more specifically, did you guys maybe work with him more on this release because of the radio? I mean, talk to us about that.
On Nobody, we did a radio edit as well, which we have never done before with anything. And he told us to do a radio edit because he said that
radio stations like radio edits.
Yeah,
apparently.
So we did a radio edit to see if that's going to help as well. So we're trying everything we can to get it played, and as much as we can do, basically.
Yeah. That's important. There's a reason that music, like, if you ever heard a band, you're like, oh, that sounds like a local band. And then sometimes you hear it's even a local band, you're like, that sounds like it should be on the radio, because there is, in fact, a format that is commercially designed to be on the radio for whatever reason, and radio edits are certainly a part of that. Interesting. So one of the key things in hip hop is obviously the hook. Did you guys do a lot of hookology on the songs?
I think the reason we picked Nobody as the first single, because I think that has got a very hooky kind of feel to it. There's definitely I think especially in the music, I think there's possibly in my bass and Dean's guitar line is very much of a hook, repetitive thing that gives a good feel. And I think if I look back across the album, I think there's definitely, I think naturally we have got the hooks there, and I think Tom has probably helped us, expand on them as well in the studio to make them more prominent as well, without us even knowing, possibly, to be fair.
Like Mr. Miyagi, next thing you know. You're like, oh man, why am I now? I sound like Timbaland. What's going on here?
But I think that is what a producer is meant to do, isn't it? Make you do these things, and then when you think, oh my God.
Yeah.
What's the number one thing you want people who are listening to the podcast right now to do?
Check out our album. or the single. If the album's out by then.
It will be, yes.
Oh, right, yeah. So, go and have a look at our album and see what you think.
Yeah. Make comments, leave reviews, tell us if you like it, if you hate it, if there's something that could be improved on it. All criticism is welcome.
Not too much.
We like to know. We like to know how our music is portrayed by another ear, and how people relate to it, how they listen to it, what they enjoy about it. I'd measure success by people saying, I really like it. Some of it, this song helped me through this, or this song, just makes me feel like that before I go out. Things like that are always lovely to hear, and feel like you connected with someone with your music and they get it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Connecting with someone, making sure they get it or seeing if they get it anyway. So you're listening in right now. You're wondering what to do. Pick up that album from Found Missing, Blind Leading the Blind. Check it out. So go ahead and head over to therockmetalpodcast.ca. There you'll get all the show notes for today, the transcripts, music videos, and links to connect with Found Missing so that you can make sure to pick up that record. So, speaking of which, Justin and Simon, thank you so much for coming on to the Rock Metal Podcast today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It's been a pleasure.
That's it for this episode of the Rock Metal Podcast. Stay tuned because next week we're going to be chatting with Michael Priest of the band Idolatrous. They've written an empowering melodic death metal album about an old Viking warrior, and they've got some excellent news to share about what's coming up. Go ahead and hit subscribe on your podcast player, share it with your friends, and I'll see you next week.